Hello, everybody. It's Leo Luna here once again with my boy Jose Sanchez. How's everything going, Jose?
It's a nice day outside. It's the only way you can enjoy it if it was for a Niner win for some of the fans out there.
Yeah, very. It's a dark Monday for a lot of us, including myself, because before anything, I'm a fan at heart. So seeing a game like yesterday, that just tears me up, and it was kind of reminding me of the Chip Kelly era, where it was just really, really hard to watch at a certain point.
Yeah, it kind of did feel like 2017. My group chat, I have a bunch of my cousins and uncles. They're all Niner fans. I'm not a Niner fan. I just like football, and
Right.
they're all stressed out. They're all saying, "Me, dude, it feels like 2017." And like someone sent a meme where it shows like the fogged up glasses where someone's squinting, and it's like Kyle Shanahan wipe up the fog and looks, and it's Chip Kelly.
Oh no. Oh no. That's all
That's
bad.
how bad it was looking. It was just horrendous. How do you get blown out to the Miami Dolphins at home? The Niners are 0-3 at home. And don't say, oh, there's no
Yeah.
fans, because that was never that great of a home field advantage in the first place. The point is there's less travel. You don't have to worry about it. It's in your backyard. You just get up and go to the field. Versus these guys have to go on a plane and stuff like that. They have a little bit more hindrances.
Right.
And you're over there getting punched in the mouth every week at home. That's just sad.
That it just looked dead to me. What are your thoughts on that? I just didn't see any energy from the team. Everyone looked like it was just going through the motions at a certain point, and it looked like no one really wanted to be out there.
Why would you want to be out there when you're getting blown out? It just was just sad all around. You're right. You got to just stare at the head coach. Like, what are you doing, to not getting your team ready or right? Anytime, you have a talented team and you're underperforming, don't just look at the injuries. Yes, that's getting played to a factor. Some of the players are, kind of falling short, but the head coach is supposed to get you ready. All right, you're supposed to prepare this team. And I know Shanahan, he's mainly involved with the play calling, offensive side of the ball, but he definitely has his hands on the defensive side as well. Like Brian Allen, you're starting Brian Allen because you don't like Ahkello Witherspoon. So when people were saying, what is Robert Saleh doing? Why is he not pulling him out? That's not Saleh's decision. That's Shanahan's decision. Why do you think it took them forever to pull the trigger on benching Ahkello after so many failed blunders, so many blunders at the end of the last season? Because Shanahan at that time liked Witherspoon. He wanted to pump his chest and say, yeah, see, I had a bunch of faith in him. And now look, he's over there trying to get all cute by starting Brian Allen. It was just so idiotic, moronic. It's nuts. And that's perfectly right there. You don't bench Ahkello for Brian Allen. That's 100% on Kyle. Now, you can't say it's Saleh's fault for not adjusting and giving help.
This is my thing on that. Not to cut you off by any means.
No, go ahead.
What was it? Ahkello saying? I still, from what I'm hearing, he didn't feel great in the warm-ups. That it felt like it was still bothering him to where he was basically a body on there, and he was an emergency use only. So is that really on Kyle Shanahan if it's saying, "Hey, my hamstring can't go"? And yes, with the cover three, if your hamstring it takes one play for you to just give up on that entire play because you pulled your hamstring. So is that really on Kyle benching him, or is that Ahkello saying, hey, I can't go, so the 49ers looked at it as a precaution?
It could be both, because I did see Dante Whitten talk about how soft he is, and Ahkello is soft. He doesn't look like that aggressive hitter from the first 3 games from last season, which looks like a fluke. Maybe 2019 49ers a fluke, but we'll get into that later. It's just, I think still you should have been able to start him, because you're starting a practice squad player who didn't play. I mean, even Matt Mayoko himself said he was confused by the move. It's like, it seemed pretty obvious that you were going to start Ahkello. Why didn't you let him go out there? And plus in the presser yesterday, he's throwing Ahkello under the bus. He's pretty. I thought Grant tweeted it perfectly.
Yeah,
Kyle Shanahan's blaming Ahkello Witherspoon why Ahkello Witherspoon didn't start. I was like, wow, you can't eloquate it any better than that. I mean, I know it's the hamstring, but I'm still not 100% buying it. I just think like, hey, he's done, because I 100% think he wanted to be done with Ahkello once training camp ended. Had Jason Verrett not got injured, I'm sure Witherspoon would have never suited up week 1, week 2, and so on and so forth. So I just think it's just him, just like, you're in my doghouse, you stay there, because this guy does get stubborn. When he doesn't like you, he's not gonna see you in the same light.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with the comment right here from my boy. It's Jimmy
Uh-uh.
was 100%. Honestly, I didn't see anything. We'll get into it, but I didn't really see anything from his ankle that limited him. It seemed like he was still his same exact throwing motions, which a lot of it is upper body. As we saw from last year, his throwing motion is almost all upper body. So he's not really a leg driver when he throws the ball.
Right.
And it's I saw the same exact thing yesterday.
Uh, I don't want to say I don't believe, even though it looked like it, because obviously we can always just speculate, and whatever these players, coaches are going to
Right.
say, they're going to say it's the injury or not. I still think he was bothered. I don't think he was 100%. Maybe he was 80%. Maybe he was 90%. Now the real question is, how much of a difference would it made? I still don't think it would have been made much of a difference. Maybe a little
Right.
bit better. Maybe in like a better three, four throws better, but
Hmm.
some of them, his decision making was still questionable in the end. And it still was the same Jimmy, and I've been a big defender of Jimmy, not to the point where it's like some of the fans want to get outrageous with him, like how they love him and stuff like that. I just think some of the criticism, he was overly criticized, but now so
Right.
far through two and a half games, he's been awful. It's just not. It's just no way you can sugarcoat it, and the fact that he is on essentially a year-to-year basis on his contract. Back to the first question that Javi said, to start looking for the future. Hell yes, they're going to start looking for the future, because Kyle didn't want Jimmy in the first place. That was John Lynch. John Lynch made that
Yeah.
move and said, "Hey, Kyle, we have a quarterback here. Why are we waiting on Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins stinks." And
Well, let's talk about it. What went wrong for Jimmy that game? What went wrong? I have my take, but I'll let you go first. What went wrong
yeah,
for him?
it's what went wrong. Other than aside from being a little bit hobbled, I feel it's just I still don't think he feels comfortable back there yet. He wasn't comfortable in week 1, and then week 2 you saw he started slowly getting a little comfortable. It was against the Jets, sure, but he played good when his ankle was hobbled and when it was even
Yeah.
in worse condition. So hey, you gotta
Right.
give credits due. I know it's once again it's against the Jets, but hey, you don't see many quarterbacks or any players in general sticking it out like that. I just think it's about him just still trying to find his comfortability, and it's a little tough to find comfortability behind that offensive line, how it is now.
Hmm.
I mean, God, what a night and day it's been from last season to now, of how much they've fallen off. And I don't want to still put it 100% on the offensive line, because I personally believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is the only quarterback out of all the quarterbacks who can overcome a little bit of the offensive
Hmm.
miscues. Although yesterday, the pressure wasn't 100% there. He
Hmm.
just looks out of sorts. I just think it's about him finding his rhythm. You kind of took that away when he was on the bench and he came back out. That's why when Grant really thought, I don't know if you were there, part of that roundtable, he thought maybe Jimmy Garoppolo could learn a little something from Nick Mullins on the sideline. I was
I
like, how are you
don't
going to
think
learn from
so.
the sidelines?
Yeah.
No, you need to. Garoppolo has always been a rhythm player. He's not someone that, all
Yeah.
right, let's put you on ice and then bring you back and you're going to pick it back up. Like, no, this guy needs to get it going. So that's why I don't think it wasn't a bad decision to start him. You already knew he wasn't healthy. Your season was kind of in the balance. The season
Hmm.
was really in the balance. So, you really had to ride or die with your franchise quarterback that you're paying 22, 23 million plus for. So, because otherwise, if you lose that game and they said, well, why, if Jimmy was even remotely healthy, why didn't you start him? So either way, it was a gamble. If they lost the game, he was still going to get slandered.
Yeah. I think also what went wrong was the pressure to play and the
Yeah.
pressure to play well. Because he knows he couldn't have had a Nick Mullins game or even an average game. It was the pressure to play at a high level and where everyone's like, okay, yeah, Jimmy, we love you, everything like that, like he expects out of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is, yeah, the O line didn't play well. He got sacked 3 times, but I watched the film this morning, and a lot of it was bad ball placement, accuracy, and it could have been the confidence in his ankle. Yeah, I said he's not too much of a leg driver when he throws a football, but it can also upset his accuracy if he doesn't trust his bottom half at all.
Right.
And basically, it's hard to tell because he's all completely an upper body thrower. Um, but he was just completely off. He was late on his reads. He was behind receivers, and he didn't make some good decisions. I think I wrote it down here. Let's see where it is. Okay. So it was he got sacked on this play, which it's hard to say when they're giving up it was a busted pass pro. It was the one where Trent Williams thought
Trent
he had
Williams,
help.
right?
Yeah, he
Got
thought
that
he had
inside.
help inside from Lincoln Tomlinson, which Tomlinson wasn't there. He was double teaming the other guy. And then from what it looked like on film, Jimmy is looking at Juice Check. Obviously, I'm not in Jimmy's eyes, but he's looking at him. What a lot of quarterbacks do is just throw the football in the dirt at the receiver's feet. Jimmy didn't do that. He held on to the ball and took the sack. I think that goes with a little bit of a confidence issue. Why don't you just throw it at the guy's feet? And now you're not at a 8-yard loss on a
Yeah.
first down play. Now you're looking at 2nd and 18 when you could have threw it at Juszczyk's feet. When he was looking that way, like I said, I'm not in his eyeballs, but
Right.
he was looking that way. And plus, as a quarterback, you know where everybody is every single play. Throw it at Juszczyk's feet next time and save the 8 yards.
I think the reason why everyone also doesn't believe that his injury even bothered him much, or believe that he was 100% after all, is because the same miscues you saw in this game is the same miscues you see from a bad Jimmy Garoppolo game anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why what I'm saying, like, hey, I still think he was hobbled, but would have it made that much of a difference? It probably wouldn't have, maybe just slight. Because, yeah, you're right. You still saw the ball coming out of his hands. And I thought John Middlecoff said on his podcast last night perfectly. It's like you could just tell the way the ball was coming out of his hands. He had no zip. There was no spiral. It was all wobbly. Like, what are you doing? Why? It looks like he was pushing the ball like this rather than just letting it rip. So it's just, I don't know what was up with him. That's why I'm just saying this guy is a rhythm passer. You needed to start him, not because the season was not just only because the season was the balance, but because you would hope, the Dolphins defense had been pretty bad up until this point that, all right, this is a good, firecracker of a game for him to get started against the team who is really hot right now, the Los Angeles Rams on prime time. You needed to get out there and really get him out because at least it's like, okay, at least if we win, he had a bad game, but you would hope to win. That was the goal. You thought you were good enough to win. That's why you're full strength. Right. Then you come out and now it's cool. Now, because you didn't want that warm-up game to be against the Rams of all people. God, no.
No.
And now it's like, Kyle's at a tough decision now. Like, hey, you made the excuse that you're protecting your quarterback. I call bullshit on that. I think you thought he was absolutely garbage. Now you have a tough decision. If he is hurt and you are concerned, then that means you're probably going to swing towards a backup on Sunday. Or what is the thought process about that? Maybe you thought he had those kinks. I mean, right now this week is going to be telling because the season was already hanging in the balance of this last loss. How's it going to happen now? Starting on Sunday when you have Aaron Donald, who's just going to have a buffet out there.
So what you're saying is, do you think they should have kept him in for the second half?
No, at that point, he just looked terrible. There was no way. I mean, the game was already out of reach. There was no point. I'm not a big believer like, oh, they can still come back. Like, no. Maybe if in the previous games they looked better, I would have had more faith in them coming back and, making a comeback.
Right.
But they look terrible. They look terrible all around. The run game actually looked decent. The defense, I don't think it was as terrible as some people. It really was just Brian Allen, essentially. It was just right to bench him. He definitely wasn't right. He was just bad. And, sometimes you got to hopefully send the message across and just somehow provide some type of spark. Or maybe now that you got Beathard a half out there, now that's what I'm saying. Now you have a tough decision. You have that flexibility of whether you want to send Beathard out against the Rams or you just say, that's what probably Kyle's thinking.
If I'm not sending Jimmy, I'm sending Mullins still. Like I haven't seen nothing outside of a prevent defense from the Eagles. I haven't seen nothing that would make me play Beathard over Mullins. But we all know that's the guy.
That's not saying something I would do. That's not saying I would do. I'd rather let Mullins get back out there and try it again too. But it's saying a lot that he's not that the way he's like shuffling his quarterbacks right now. It doesn't really look like he has like a sort of structure. He's just going with how he feels in the moment.
Right. I would have kept Jimmy in. At least maybe take him out after the third quarter, depending on how he's still playing, or if you're concerned about protecting him, which I don't think that was the case as well, because the offensive line gave up about three sacks on Jimmy, but Jimmy also had a horrendous about 6 plays by himself that had nothing to do with the offensive line. So I would have still played him in that second half. Reason being is he was horrendous at halftime. I think his quarterback rating was like a 15.
Yeah, it was like
So,
something like a 23 or something.
so with Jimmy, I'm gonna play him in the second half and have him gain a little bit of confidence before having to face this Rams team that has Aaron Donald get his
Right.
feet wet, as you said right here, 15.7. So I would have still kept him in, maybe gain a little bit of confidence off of some of his passes. That's what you do as a coach. You teach up your player. He's your $27 million quarterback. You're going to teach him up at the halftime. At least let him come out of the half and make up for his mistakes. Because it wasn't about protecting him. He made more mistakes than the offensive line did. That's why they took him out. And at that point, the game was over, and Kyle Shanahan just didn't want him to get hurt more. Maybe, yeah, you could say that, but I think Shanahan was just done with Jimmy Garoppolo at that point. But now if you took him out to protect him against the Miami Dolphins, where he looked bad, how are you going to play him against the Rams that have Aaron Donald against your interior offensive line that's been really bad this season? So do you not start him to protect him?
Exactly, because he might not be
now.
starting him. He might not be starting him. That's what I'm saying. That's why he rolled Beathard out there, because he might not be starting him, and he's gonna say, "Look," he might just say, "Hey, look, we kind of messed up on starting him," and it's just he doesn't. Kyle doesn't really care. Now I'm starting to entertain the fact, like, hey, maybe Kyle really doesn't have that much faith in Jimmy. A lot of things where people, where he doesn't act aggressively, and like multiple times he did last season, like the Super Bowl, for example. Why wasn't he aggressive in the final 2 minutes of a half? Well, it's because he doesn't trust Jimmy, so on and so forth. Like I didn't 100% buy into that, and I still don't. But I think going forward now, that's something that you can entertain because, like you said, why wouldn't you just let him roll out there? The game's already at a loss. I mean, what's there? So you're not protecting him. He played absolutely horrendous.
Right.
So yeah, your point is exactly on the money right there. I just feel like hey, you just yanked him because he doesn't have it. You saw he didn't have it from the very moment of the first drive. Whether it's just because hey, he's thinking about it too much because of his ankle. He's also thinking about it because he doesn't know about the offensive line. Because he did take some licks early, and even though the grander scheme wasn't getting lit up too much in the first half, all it takes is setting the tone. How many times football is about setting the tone so much more than any other sport. And the moment he got those early licks in, it's enough to throw certain weak quarterbacks out of it. And Jimmy has done a good job, throughout his career with the 49ers of coming back like, hey, I'm taking shots, but I'm still taking shots against you as well. Like against the Rams last year in week 16, he was just getting destroyed, and he still was able to deliver 2 3rd and 16 throws. But now it's just that's why you just got to get him in rhythm. And it kind of like reinforces your point exactly. Like if you wanted them rhythm, you should have let him stay out there and try to like figure it out. But now you want to start him fresh again next week. I don't know. Maybe he'll try, maybe he'll try getting him more on a full participation basis at practice this week, because that's going to be the key thing, seeing who, how is the participation going, who's getting what during practices. That's going to be a key tell sign going forward, at least for starting on Sunday night.
Is Kyle too much in his own head? I think kind of a little bit. With Kyle, it's Mullins threw that pick six against Philly. He yanked him. Understanding a prevent defense was coming up next. Mullins is the number 2 guy as far as quarterback goes. It's not Beathard. At least let Mullins gain some confidence after a horrendous game and throw against a prevent defense and end up with the stat line Beathard did at the end of the game. So I think that's what you should have done as a head coach. Kyle Shanahan, I'm not saying I know more than him. He's obviously a way better coach than I am. I'm just talking about a mental aspect. I think he does just get too upset when players don't reach the standard, and then he just yanks them with the quickness like Jimmy Garoppolo. He understands Garoppolo made more mistakes than the offensive line did, so he was done with Garoppolo at that point. This game's out of reach. I'm going to yank him and throw my guy Beathard in. So
yeah, I think he's definitely too much in his own head right now. You can tell it's everywhere, from his decision making, from who he plays to his play calling. Like that, you went for it on 4th and 1, good decision, but you did a gun run with Jerick McKinnon. Like, why?
Yeah.
What your run game didn't show anything other than a couple of nice runs with Mostert, and Mostert's someone who can turn crap into gold. So why didn't you roll him out there? Why didn't you bootleg it? Why didn't you just simply
around with Debo?
Where was those all day? That was like, it's like, why are you forgetting so many of these plays? It's like it's like he's like, all right, 2019, I use those plays. I can only use a small fraction of them, and I'm just gonna do like there's a lot of lack of creativity. Like the touchdown, the first touchdown drive he had, that was his best drive. That
Oh
was
my
his best
god,
play calling drive,
the
and
call
just
to
like
juice check to score that touchdown, that was
no
fantastic.
untouched. And
Yeah.
then every week, Kyle's only had one good drive of calling. I can't think past the New York game, which I'm not going to even bother with that. Even against whatchamacallit, even against the Eagles last week, one drive Kyle had that was fantastic. You know, the one where it's just nothing but under rounds, and then Brandon Ayukin jumped over. Oh, that was beautiful. It looked like a majestic gazelle going into the end zone on that huge hurdle. That was a good drive. Other than that, I don't know what else Kyle called offensively that was good enough. Just like yesterday, I don't know, after that one drive, the first touchdown drive, I don't know what he called that was good enough. I know the players have to execute, but sometimes you just got to he needs to figure it out. You know, it's not our job to figure it out because we're not the ones getting paid. All right. We're not the ones. We can just talk about, hey, this is what he did. This wasn't right. What are you going to do to come back against Sunday against the Rams? And that's why it's like, it kind of tough not to circle back to, well, you pulled Jimmy and you put the CJ in, you know, your player more than anybody, you know, he's going in hobbled, you know, he's an in rhythm passer. So why are you pulling him? So, I mean, it's just this guy, you're right. He's just giving up too fast. His decision-making is very questionable. His play calling has been, you know, questionable at best. And it's just, you know, you go back to you're starting Brian Allen over Akillo. It's just a lot of he just needs to start holding himself to accountable is what I think.
Right. And the question here is, am I giving up on it? Because like I said, I'm a fan at heart first. I give honest critiques. And if they don't like it, so what? I'm being honest. But as a fan at heart, giving up on Jimmy fast, I wouldn't say it would be necessarily fast. We're year 4 in with Jimmy now. I need to see more. If the 49ers are going to continue to pass over potential franchise quarterbacks in the draft, I do need to see more in Jimmy, because what I love about Jimmy is that guy could make a terrible decision, terrible play, and just be like, shrug his shoulders and say, so what? And move on to the next play. So I like that part about him. But I also do feel like he is the type of quarterback where things need to be hitting on all cylinders to reach his maximum volume. So that does concern me a little bit, not being a little mobile in certain situations. Like I look at a 3rd and 5 and I see a gaping hole wide open. I'm like, man, if we had Deshaun Watson, that would be a first down with his legs easily. But Jimmy can't really do that himself. So I do miss that, having that aspect as a quarterback. I say you got to let the season roll out and see what he does the rest of the year. If he doesn't turn back into 2017 Jimmy, I think this is head on the nail right here. If he doesn't turn back into 2017 Jimmy, he's maxed out at this point.
Yeah, I think it's getting close to me even saying he's probably hit a ceiling too. I just want to see him just at least string some games together first, because, you know, he is an in rhythm passer. He's not, like I said, he's not someone that you're going to keep on the shelf and just plug him in and like, all right, now go wild. I mean, you could probably say that the same about a good portion of players in the league, not just quarterbacks. Like it takes a little while to get them back into the thick of things. But as far as like give it up on Jimmy, like, no, he's still the best. He still gives the 49ers the best likelihood of winning every football game going forward versus like Mullins. Like, I think had Jimmy been like fully fit playing against the Eagles, they would have won that game. Like, to me personally, I think they would have won that game. And I know you could say like, oh, well, they played a Dolphins defense that's probably around the same, or maybe just slightly improved, however way you're thinking. Yeah. And they just fell completely flat and just went on a downward slope. But it's getting close to saying exactly what Javi just said. Jimmy is maxed out. I mean, it's fair if you want to believe that, because you're not really seeing much improvements. It's still the same old. And low key, I had a little bit concerns with seeing him in training camp. I'm watching Jimmy. I'm like, why? Jimmy looks exactly the same as I did last year in training camp, as I did last year in every game I watched. And I grew a little concerned. I'm like, okay, how come you're not a little bit improved, Jimmy? I'm a little scared. You know, year 2 in the offense, your first full year starting, you should have been a little bit improved. You know, last offseason you spent just becoming a quarterback, a football player again. This year should have been cleaning up some of those flaws, and it just looks like the same old. I'm not ready to say that yet, because I'm not someone that jumps the gun on a small sample size. Give me until like week 8 through 10, and then I'm willing to say it. But whoever wants to like start touting it out, like, hey, good eye on that. But it's starting to definitely start getting close to that statement for sure.
Yeah. So we spent about almost 30 minutes talking about Jimmy and the offense here. Let's go ahead and move on to the other side of the ball. Is there too many injuries defensively to compete right now? And if so, what does Salah need to change up?
I don't think the defense has been bad this season, to be honest. I mean, you look at their rankings going into yesterday. I don't know what it is now, but you look at the rankings going into yesterday, everything was still like, I think relatively around top 10. So I think they've all done a tremendous job on that side. I think 100% of the woes falls in the offense, especially now knowing that that's their identity. That's supposed to be their identity going forward. As soon as Bosa, Solomon, Richard Sherman, all those players fell, it's like, all right, this is no longer a defensive team. It has to shift towards the offense, and they definitely are capable of it because you got Mostert, you got Kittle, you got Debo, Brandon Ayuk's flourishing now. All these players that you definitely can. They were a top offense last year, and they definitely could have sustained it right now. I know injuries, once again, is taking a side on that ball, but at least look at the defense. Why Salah's adjusting? Why isn't Shanahan adjusting? I don't think it's just simply like how does Kyle Shanahan going to adjust poor quarterback play? Well, I mean, how is Salah going to adjust without having the most dominant defensive player, Richard Sherman, Nick Bosa? He's calling more blitzes. I wrote about it last week. He's calling more blitzes. That's not what he wants to do. Salah just wants to blanket the field, force you into decision, let my pass rush do all the work. But no, he's calling blitzes from everywhere. He's so creative. I love his blitz calling. They're not always hitting home. They're not always rushing the player. But hey, he acknowledges, hey, this defensive line is not good enough just to tee off on its own. I have no D4, no Bosa. All these players are gone. Kinlaw's still sending. And so just like we said earlier, like, they're still waiting on Kinlaw, and it hurts. It hurts. We already just called it from the beginning that we knew we weren't going to see that major impact without DeForest Buckner.
Right.
But boy, at least Salah's adjusting. I personally don't think they've done a terrible job aside from, the secondary has been shaky. But I think it's just overall, the offense has to protect the defense, control time of possession, be efficient, keep the defense on the sidelines to get more rest. And at least if they could do that, they'll be more efficient. But overall, it's just, I think the way the defense can grow it's just on the offense. We can't really expect too much from them. I know injuries is hurting them and all that stuff, but at least they're doing something. I feel more positive about them than the offense, at least, especially given yesterday they had all those injuries that looked better than the offense.
Right. I agree with everything you just said. I don't think the injuries are killing them defensively, and I think that goes to say with Salah. I've been seeing yesterday on Twitter, people were just bashing Salah after the game, like, "Oh, is this guy still going to be a head coach?" Yada yada yada.
It's one game.
Yeah. It's one game that they gave up over 30 points. Look what the Eagles did to the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday.
That defense, that good on the road too.
On the road, so it's like this defense is fine right now, with considering all the injuries they have. They gave up 30 points in the first half. Well, 6 came from 2 interceptions, and I'll say 14. A lot of people want to put 21 on Brian Allen, but I'll put 14. I'll just go a touchdown less. So that means the halftime score could have been 7-10. 3-point game at that point.
Yeah.
And if this team gains Richard Sherman or Emmanuel Mosley next week, then they don't have a Brian Allen that's getting picked on the other side of the field. Something I would have liked to see is they move Jamar Taylor out of the slot, and have him play as the outside corner, and then bring in Tarvarius Moore in the slot. Tarvarius Moore could have done it, or even put Tarvarius Moore outside. The reason why I say Jamar Taylor is because his best years in the NFL was with the Cleveland Browns when he was playing outside corner. For whatever reason, the league has made him a nickel corner. He can't. He still wants to. I talked to him still, and he wants to play outside corner. But we'll see if they ever. Hopefully they're not in this situation again where they got to play a Brian Allen or Webster next week. If so, I would like to see them put Jamar Taylor outside corner. Maybe that could have prevented to where this game wasn't as bad as it was. We've seen with Ahkello Witherspoon a lot of its confidence, and after the Miami Dolphins went after Brian Allen the very first play, everything just went downhill for him. Confidence, And then the one good play he makes, he gets what's it, collarbone tackle,
Yeah,
um,
horse collar.
so horse collar tackle. So it's like that. Everything just went downhill for Brian Allen, and hopefully they're not experiencing that against the Rams, to where they either have one or the other. It doesn't sound positive for having one, but let's leave out hope for it. And I think Salah has done a great job for all the pieces that he's missing. Like we talked about Nick Bosa, but D Ford's a name as well that he doesn't
Hmm.
have, even if it's still 150 snaps for the season. Still doesn't even have that. He has about like 15 from D Ford at this point. It just makes it very, very hard defensively at that point.
It definitely does, because you're right that he's already, at least he's still, like I said, he's still making the
Mm-hmm.
most out of what he has, and he's doing a decent job of it. And that's why I wanted to like clarify from the get go, like, hey, it's Salah doesn't name the starters. All right, it's always, I
Yeah.
mean, if anyone's paid attention, it's always been Kyle. Even in the training camp, when training camp was wrapped up, someone in the press, one of the media members asked him, "Hey, who's going to be the opposite corner to Richard
Mm-hmm.
Sherman? Is it going to be Mosley? Is it going to be Akillo? Is it Verrett?" And he's like, we're still deciding. You're going to have to ask Kyle, because he doesn't choose it. So imagine
Yeah.
maybe Jamar Taylor does play outside if Salah has more input on that.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't decide. He just calls the plays and draws up the scheme. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's why the only knock I have on him is that he didn't adjust and give help to Brian Allen. You just had single high, cover three. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, dude. Maybe tell him just to play more deeper, not to play so uptight. Just give him that
Yeah.
ground. Who cares? Get the underneath stuff and let the linebacker make a play on underneath. Shade over to the side, disguise it, make Ryan Fitzpatrick think twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, Jimmy Ward's shaded to that side. Maybe not throw it over there. Do something different,
I'll
because
tell you what. With Fred Warner's cover skills, I would love to see them run Tampa 2. Just a little bit. Give me Tampa 2 like 5 times a game. Fred Warner was a safety at BYU. I would just love to see him drop back into that middle third and do a little cover 2. He could do it.
It's yeah, hey, that all right. That's where they're really stepping out of the realm at that
Yeah.
point. So I mean, personally, like that's another thing I was saying. Maybe I would have liked. I thought I was expecting to see more base defense from them. You got Dre Greenlaw back.
Yep.
You 2 of your 3 linebackers are superb in pass coverage, and Quan's hit or miss nowadays.
Yeah.
Why did you throw in more of that mix? I mean, I think they just wanted more speed and more agility, more player who was agile, because the Dolphins were tossing the pill a lot more than they were running it, and it's not like they were running the ball with that much success in the first place. So
Right.
I mean, that's the, like I said, that's the only critique I had of Salah. Like, you didn't adjust to giving help to your guy. It's on you. But Kyle, why'd you make the decision to start him, and why'd you wait so long to pull him? Like, I don't. And then he just mentions like, oh yeah, I waited for Akillo to tell me when he was ready to pull. Like, what? You're the coach. You are the head coach. You decided. They don't tell you. You tell them. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's suited up. No, and
Yeah.
then they make up this thing like, oh, well, it's for emergencies. And same thing. Like, oh, I was protecting Jimmy. It's like all this window dressing to mask everything that's flawed for Kyle Shanahan's decision making. And he's messing up right now on all this stuff. He's lost. He hasn't looked like a good coach this year. And that's just the bad part. And I think that's why so many of us have held hope. Like, hey, they can still bounce back. But you just went through the easiest 5-game stretch of your season. You finished 2-3. Once again, injuries are great and all, but we weren't screaming injuries last season when
Right.
they went 13-3. It's really shoddy right now.
All right. So let's talk about it. What should they do about the offensive line? I have my theory, and I'll go ahead and say my theory. My theory is just let the Yak Boys eat up. Do some more wide receiver screens. Do some end arounds more with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Hey, give Deebo Samuel 3 end arounds a game. Give Brandon Ayuk 2 end arounds a game. Give Kittle some tight end screens, which we've seen Andy Reid do that quite a bit with Travis Kelce over the years, and it works phenomenal. Maybe some more quick slants, in routes, out routes. All of that quick yardage like the Arizona Cardinals does against the 49ers every single game they matched up this season, because these guys the 49ers can run for a lot of yards after the catch, and that's how you're going to offset a poor offensive line, is just getting that ball out quick with quick decisions, quick reads. And looking at the tape yesterday from the first half, it's sometimes Jimmy Garoppolo was hanging there in the pocket a little bit, but his receivers had their back towards Garoppolo because they're still running deep vertical routes, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they should be doing that at this point if the offensive line is a concern. Uh, Forget about those deep routes. Run some more underneath, 10 yards and under, quick decisions, and let these guys run after the catch.
And the opposing defenses are not worried about those deep routes either. That's why they're sending 5 or 6 players every blitz like half the time. It's because they know, like, hey, these guys can't stop us when we overload it, so let's keep sending it. And
Exactly.
we're gonna get lucky that they're gonna be throwing it deep. And even if it is short, we have a chance to tip it. Like, there were some instances where the ball was tipped, or like Jimmy freaked out and immediately just looked terrible. Is I think there's no other way to do it than what you just said right now. Incorporate more horizontal movement, in terms of jet sweeps and such. Do a little, maybe run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
I know the offensive line, at least the offensive line, has had more success running the ball than throwing it. I feel like Kyle has forced more passing than they really should. It doesn't look, offensive styles definitely look a little different from last season. He's just a little too pass heavy for my taste, especially when, where's the play action? And you had Raheem Mostert, he was limited. I know the game kind of got out of it, but at least, if you give him the ball still, if you're down 2 scores, I mean, look, they gave him the ball on that first touchdown score, and look, two easy rips, and you were in that baby. You were in there like nothing. And so just run the ball a little more, do exactly what you said, get a little horizontal movement, maybe a little more counter plays, get shifting, because I'm not seeing enough shift in one direction and then while the play's on the other side. I'm not seeing all this trickery as I thought I would see. So, other than that, I just wrote about today. I think the offensive line is unfixable. I think a lot of it's communication issues because, like you said, when Trent Williams allowed that inside move to get beat, they're not on the same page. And Williams, especially McGlinchey, have looked really bad. At least Williams' last 2 games looked bad because early on he looked good. But, these guys, interior offensive line was the issue. But now I think the whole offensive line, no one's done good. Brunskill was already screwed from the get-go when he had to play center all training camp. And he's barely getting acclimated to right guard again. McGlinchey looks like a tight end now with how skinny he looks. It's just all bad right now. Other than what you just mentioned, I'm not sure how exactly he can even adjust because really offensive line, you just got to tee off and like get your executions right. So communication, number 1, incorporate more quick passes and run the ball. Let them get play to the strengths because pass protection is obviously not a strength of theirs right now.
Yeah, and I think I saw someone said yesterday as well is use your tight ends more to block. Bring in, it's basically an extra lineman. Well, they tried that yesterday and Ross Dwelly whiffed, and that's where Garoppolo got smacked on his blind side and he fumbled. Good thing Jeff Wilson picked that up. So, like, Shanahan did try that. As far as something that I'm seeing on film, just looking at the first half yesterday, I didn't even bother getting into the CJ Beathard part. I just wanted to see how it was with Jimmy Garoppolo out there. It's 2 guys are running vertical routes, and then Jimmy Garoppolo basically has one read, which it's either Kittle or Deebo Samuel coming from outside or IU coming in from outside as well. And they're bracket coveraging those. They're covering inside pretty heavy. So now it's basically your out routes have their heads, the back of their heads towards Garoppolo. Garoppolo's sitting for a window to open on his one read, or he's going to have to become Derek Carr and check it down every single time because it's not there. I think Kyle Shanahan needs to get more.
Whoa. Derek Carr threw about like 8 bombs yesterday. And right now, the 49ers would want Derek Carr right now.
Yeah, that's right now. But I'm saying typically what he's been known for is check down king. And I think Kyle Shanahan needs to run more shorter routes so that Garoppolo's not sitting there for 3 seconds looking at the back of his wide receiver's helmet. It's kind of like these guys are going to be a decoy and let's get Kittle through the middle. Oh, wait, they're sitting in the middle waiting for Kittle. That's what I'm noticing.
Yeah, and even some screens, how many, it's like basic common knowledge that, hey, when they're sending pressure, call a screen, make them pay for sending everyone because then you have nothing but real estate. So you didn't get any of that either. Just simple screens to Mostert or McKinnon or that's what Kyle Shanahan's doing right now. Like I'm just confused as ever as why he's calling this game.
Yeah, I love that screen idea because what gives these offensive linemen that the 49ers have confidence. McGlinchey, he loves getting out there on the screen. Ben
Exactly.
Garland loves getting out there on the screen. Same thing with Trent Williams. These offensive linemen they have are athletic, and they want to be out in space, and I think that would be fantastic. We saw Ben Garland wreck over someone. We've seen even McGlinchey as his tight end body wreck over someone out on the screen game, and we all know Trent Williams at this point. Let let them do it. Loosen things up more, and I think he's just from what I'm noticing with Kyle, he's trying to be more vertical with the offense this year, which that's not what they did last year when they were at 30 points a game, the second scoring team in the NFL, and now
Hmm.
they went back-to-back games without scoring 21 points. So, like you said, more of a horizontal game, stretch the field. You have guys that could jump over people or run them over. Use them. And then let's just get over the 5-game outlook that the 49ers have. This before the bye week. Before the bye week. So the next 5 games they have the Rams, Patriots, Seahawks, Packers, and Saints, all before the bye week. So what do you see that? What do you see that outlook being?
Where do you see a win there? I don't see a win there. Like after what I saw yesterday and the week before, all three of their losses they should have never been losses. And the only one that they were close in, I mean, excuse me, the only one where they really got blown out in was yesterday. And that I said this before. Once the 49ers lost to the Eagles, their fear factor was over because the Eagles were a team prior to that week playing the 49ers were intentionally playing for a tie against the Bengals, intentionally playing for a tie. Like you're just really like it was really pathetic that you're losing to the Eagles and now you're losing to the Dolphins. You don't lose to the Dolphins. This is a team that gets curb stopped every time. I don't care if you saw Ryan Fitzmagic. I don't care if everyone says, "Hey, this is a better team than you thought about." Like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
You're a better team. You're you're that people are talking than your record says as well. But
Right.
maybe now we're the ones that are overestimating it. So I don't know where you can see a win. You know, the Rams, Aaron Donald's good enough to wreak havoc in the interior offensive line. How are you going to stop them? And even when the offensive line was good last year, they weren't slowing them down. And then you have the Patriots on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not a 10 a.m. game, but you have the Patriots on the road. Dude,
Yeah.
Bill Belichick is going to erase George Kittle. And then where's Jimmy going to go to now, or whoever the quarterback is at that moment? And then Seattle, Green Bay. Look, all that shit talk all the fans did about the Packers fans is looking really bad right now because it looks like now that it's going to be a role reversal. It looks like the 49ers are going to get curb stomped on that Thursday night game. And then you have the Saints. I think the Saints is the only one you can really beat. You know, Michael Thomas is going to be back for that game, but I think that's the only one that you could really beat because Drew Brees is not that great of a quarterback anymore. He's just a name. I think that's the best chance. So I don't see any more than one win. I think if you get 2 wins from that, you should feel lucky. But that's the thing. They need more than 2 wins to stay even just in wild card contention at this point. It's not looking good. They really needed to win yesterday's game and the week prior because, you know, Seattle at this point, they're going to run away with the division off top.
Okay. So I see this is the optimism fan of me. I see 3 wins. 3 winnable games. 3 winnable games here. Seattle, their defense has been awful. Yes, they have Russell Wilson on the other side, but Saleh has done a great job containing Russell Wilson in the past. They even lost to Nick Mullins when they were fighting for a playoff spot. So I'm going to see Seattle as a winnable game since that defense is atrocious. Green Bay, because if they're able to get that the running game going, how are they going to stop Raheem Mostert? They couldn't do it last year, and their linebackers aren't as any better than last year. And then the Saints, because like you said, Drew Brees, it's later into the season. So he may not be as healthy as he was week 1, 2, or 3, and their defense hasn't looked very well either. The ones I have my doubts on is the Rams because who's starting at quarterback? I don't know. And then even if Jimmy does start that game, he just came off an atrocious game against the Dolphins. How much confidence is he going to have that game? And how much confidence do I have to expect him to ball out? I just don't see it. Sorry. And then another one I have my doubt on is the Patriots game because Cam Newton's a running quarterback, so he's going to extend drives for them. And Bill Belichick's the defensive coordinator, and he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. And if anybody knows Garoppolo, it is Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 3 winnable games: Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans. Ones I have my doubts on: who's starting for the Rams game, and Bill Belichick is the DC in New England. So
Yeah, but the
we'll
3
see.
losses this year were definitely winnable games that they should have won.
Yes.
That's why they're inexcusable losses.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
why.
also, you can't compare. You can't say, "Oh, how," because they were close last year. This is not the same team. This is not the same team, Leo. This offensive line is horrendous. They're losing. So they're not playing the same. You know, Seahawks defense, yeah, it's not good. And Salah's done a good job with Russell Wilson, but he doesn't have Nick Bosa or D Ford or DeForest
Correct.
Buckner to wreak havoc and just disrupt
Correct.
him and make his time clock go. And Wilson's playing better this year than he did last year. I just have no faith in them beating them. And then what's the other team? The Saints. That's the only one because it's Drew Brees. But
hey, look, how I look at it is the Vikings just went in Seattle and shut out Wilson for a half. Yes, they lost that game because Kirk Cousins, sorry. But it can be done. Even the season Russell Wilson's having, if Minnesota's defense is sorry, and they shut out Russell Wilson for a half in Seattle. So if Minnesota could do it, I believe this 49ers defense that.
But Minnesota did that because
they
were getting pressure on Russell Wilson. That guy was getting. I think I've seen almost every Seahawks game this season, and he got pressure in that game the most than any other game. And that's something that this team can't do. It's tee off Gary Hyder because he's the only one that's really. He's the only one that's really getting the real pressure there.
49ers are getting pressure. They're just not finishing the job. I think
exactly, and that's the way you got to do. You got to really like hit Russell Wilson, not really getting the hits, and not really like finishing the job. And that's something you got to do with Russell Wilson. The last thing they're going to want, and also you can forget he's also a capable running quarterback. And then you look at Green Bay. God damn, Aaron Rodgers looks phenomenal. They're gonna get Devontae Adams back for that game.
So if they win that game, they're gonna have to win it running the ball for the 49ers. Chew up that clock. They did it last year with Raheem Mostert, and I think that it's still gonna work this year. I don't see how it doesn't. Offensive line has had their struggles, but when Mostert's in, they could run that damn ball pretty well.
I think the only one hope that they'll have for that game, that the running game will be successful, is that the offensive line will have more games to get out to hopefully work out the resting kinks by then, because that is 3 to 4 weeks away. But other than that, if they're not getting better, then if they look like how they did yesterday against the Dolphins, then Kenny Clark and the Smith brothers are gonna feel happy. Like, man, this is not the same offensive line that was punking us last year in those 2 games. So it's really hard. They're gonna have to figure it out. They have to work. It has to be magical. They have to work some magic. This is hardly a playoff team at this point for me.
Hopefully, by that Seattle and Green Bay game, that they could either get Ronald Blair or Julian.
Yeah, that'd be a boost.
Back. At least one of them. If they get both of them by that Seattle Green Bay window, that helps out this D-line tremendously as far as creating pressure and finishing. Because Ronald Blair can finish. We've seen in the past him sack. That's actually how he ended his season last year, was sacking Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that was a big-ass hustle play by him.
So that helps. And I like Julian Taylor as a prospect. I think he has some upside if he gets some more snaps in. So they have some reinforcements coming on that defensive line. When they come, that's going to be the answer when the 49ers compete more against the Seattle and Green Bay team.
Huge if. That's a huge if, man.
If it's the optimism side of me. I don't want to go full Grant Cohn yet. That's not really my style. But I think there's still something there. They just gotta. I think the coaching got to do better. I don't think it's necessarily all injuries at this point. I need to see more in coaching.
100% coaching. I blame the coaching more than the players, though, for sure. Where are you sitting?
Yeah, because like that 4th and 1, why are you doing a draw up the middle with McKinnon? That makes 0 sense. Why are you starting Brian Allen? That makes 0 sense. There was also something in the air. Oh, they freaking ran the ball up the middle again in the Arizona game on the 4th and goal. That made 0 sense. The Eagles game, there was something coaching on that end. I just can't really pick it up right now off the top of my head, but
this is a long list at this point, it feels like.
Yeah, I would say it's a mixture of both, but I would probably go 51 coaching just because, hey, they're the guys with the names right now, not the backups. So, like that Eagles game, what I noticed with Nick Mullins is Shanahan just likes to let Nick rip. Doesn't do the same with Garoppolo. That's why Mullins has so many yards in his, NFL career compared to his starts. He lets Nick Mullins rip it. And I think he trusted Nick too much in that Philly game, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, that's why I started off with those 3 plays off the bat, and he just completely just wet the bed on those throws.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all set here. Thank you, Jose, for joining me here, talking some Niner football on this not so lovely Monday.
Black Monday.
on this Black Monday. At least it is for Dan Quinn as well. So there's worse situations going on, but with the expectations we had coming into the season, it feels a whole lot worse than
definitely a lot worse.
Falcons or Giants or Jets. But hey, keep the faith. That's why they call that's why they call it faithful. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, everyone.